Well, for my readers, I just want to keep in, let them keep in mind that stellar metamorphosis is not electric universe. Um, I may receive some people that want to unsubscribe from my little page here, in my little corner of the internet. But keep in mind also, just because I don't accept a lot of electric universe stuff, doesn't mean I automatically accept establishment's version of events. I believe both are misguided in multiple ways. But one thing that really concerns me the most is the acceptance of a theory that really doesn't explain how the Earth formed. How can you have a theory of, the stars and things and galaxies and what happens to them if you can't even explain how the ground came to be, how the Earth formed? Here I pulled up on Google, the search engine here, electric universe Earth formation. Um, I don't really know how electric universe formed the Earth. I don't really understand how they make a giant ball of rock with electricity only. That seems that seems a little bit more unbelievable than believing it's gravity only, like the establishment does. With establishment science, they say that a rocky object clumps together absent a gravitational field, and then it forms a gravitational field magically. I don't understand. They clump objects together with massive bodies that don't actually exist yet, which is a contradiction. So gravity clearly doesn't do it. But for some reason, I don't understand where Electric Universe explains how the Earth formed. Sure, they can be like, oh, well, stars form in pinching filaments. Okay. But those are hot plasmatic stars. How exactly does the plasma cool and become a rocky object? Because the Earth isn't plasma. The Earth is solid material. For the most part, it doesn't conduct electricity at all. It's electrically insulating, if anything. Uh, but the Electric Universe people, they have one tool at their disposal. They have everything can be explained with electricity only. But I think that's misguided, just like establishment science, where they try to explain everything with gravity only. Um, which is why I'm making this quick video. If there are any Electric Universe proponents who can explain to me how the Earth formed, I'd be willing to listen. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they even bother with the Earth. I think they're uh, I don't think they have any explanation at all. So they just ignore the ground they're walking on. They ignore rocks and minerals. And they say, oh, it was electricity that formed everything, yet they don't explain how the rocks and minerals came to be in the first place, which is uh, basically worse than establishment science. At least they have some like rock cycle type thing, but Electric Universe, they just outright ignore rocks altogether. But here's a little thing I want to show you guys. Here I typed in Jupiter ejecting Venus in Google Images, and what we see here is, I don't know what we're seeing. There's no real pictures of Venus coming out of Jupiter. I think Velikovsky was saying that because, well, if you look at Venus and Jupiter along the horizon, Sometimes Venus will be really close to Jupiter, and oh, it's coming out of Jupiter. I think that's where Velikovsky's ejection of Venus from Jupiter came from. It birthed Venus, or Jupiter birthed Venus. I don't understand where they're really going with that. These are all the images that I pull up. I don't see any pictures of Venus coming out of Jupiter. Now, the reason why I'm going over Venus is because Venus is about the same size as Earth. So if we can explain what happened with Venus, we can explain what happened with Earth. In stellar metamorphosis, the Venus, the dead star Venus, is down here somewhere, and it's an old Earth. It was like Earth in the past, but now it's a dead world without a magnetic field, and it can't host life. The surface of it is sterile. But what happens is the star, it cools and dies and contracts gravitationally, taking the plasma, moving it to gas as it recombines, and then the gas condenses and deposits as liquid and solid material in its interior. And the sequence of this deposition is also easy to understand. It's just inhomogeneous accretion. What happens is Markland convection takes the lowest ionization potential, I think that's right, which is iron and nickel, and it forms the core first in the center of the star, and it layers the core on the center. And then the mantle layers on top of that, which is really hot, and then the crust forms last, and all of a sudden, the oceans form last after the crust, as the oceans cool the crust down. But what this diagram does not show is that this doesn't happen in outer space, just without anything causing the clumping together. They're completely neglecting the outer atmosphere that's just really thick of the star. This is the very center of what would be a late stage brown dwarf star. It starts forming its iron nickel core, which deposits material on its center and forms the new Earth. This happens inside of gas giant stars. But young stars like the Sun, they don't have a core. They're like a giant soap bubble. This is basically the structure of young stars. They're really spherical. And we can probably model a stellar explosion by simply popping soap bubbles. The Sun, if it got hit by an object large enough, would probably pop the surface and cause the electromagnetic forcing to collapse upon itself, which would then leave the star exposed as being just a bunch of ionized plasma that was held together very thinly. Over time, the plasma, as it cools, becomes gas, and it starts condensing, and the soap bubble will start contracting on itself, greatly reducing its volume. What this also means is that the star doesn't contain the mass as per establishment dogma, because if it did, it would actually bulge on the equator. But what we found is that the Sun is much rounder than what mathematical theory predicts, which means something else is causing gravitation. It's not the fact that it's heavy. The truth is that gravitation isn't a phenomenon. It's not directly caused by something that we think is mass. What is really happening is it's a epiphenomenon, meaning it's a secondary to something else. And I think that something else has something to do with the radiation intensity of the star. In other words, instead of placing mass as a center of a star's ability to exert an influence on outside bodies, we should place that in its radiation, how strongly it radiates, because there's a property of radiation that we don't understand yet, which I think causes gravitation. And we think it's mass, but it's actually just principle of thermodynamics that we have yet to discover. But more on that later. So in short, should we take Venus coming out of Jupiter as a similar model as Earth coming out of Jupiter, or should we go with something else? Should we come to the realization that Venus never needed to come out of anything, that once it was born as a big, bright, hot star, it just cooled, shrinked, and died, and took all of its material and combined it into solid material over many billions of years, and the fact that Venus is older than the Earth. Therefore, stellar metamorphosis directly contradicts electric universe, because brown stars don't eject other stars. Besides that they're younger than the older stars. So how exactly does an older star come out of a younger star when the younger star didn't even exist? That would be like saying uh, that would be like saying a 25-year-old woman giving birth to an 85-year-old man. It it doesn't make any sense. But I guess this should help people if they just realize that those bright things in the night sky are new planets or exoplanets, that they cool and die and stop radiating in the visible spectrum. I think we'd be much better off.